Hello, I'm Paul Stevens, and welcome to our first RockSTRz 2.0 webinar on guest wellness, well-being, and safety protocols on and off property. This session is kindly sponsored by Nuki, and check out this short video that they've sent over to us. Now, I'm delighted to say our second Shorties Awards will take place virtually on Thursday, the 22nd of April, 2021. For more details, visit theshorties.com and submit your entries by Sunday, the 21st of February at 23:59 GMT. We've had an incredible number of entries so far, so we can't wait for that in April. This webinar series is leading up to our Urban Living Festival, Stay, Live, Work, in London on the 7th to the 8th of July 2021, exploring the convergence between hospitality and real estate. Check out urbanlivingfestival.com. So please put any questions you have in the chat for us. I'm being ably assisted by my colleagues Joe and Justin in the back end today, and a recording will be sent out after the discussion to everyone who is registered. So again, I'm Paul Stevens, editor of Short Term Rentals. It's part of the International Hospitality Media portfolio, and we also have our boutique hotel news and serviced apartment news websites. So let me get cracking by introducing our rock stars today, and we're going to start with Andrew Bate from Safely. Andrew, take it away.
Hi, I'm Andrew Bate. I'm the CEO of Safely.com. Our whole mission is we help homeowners feel comfortable with internet strangers staying in their house, and we do that with background checks on the guest. We build a risk score so you know how risky that reservation is going to be, and then we insure the whole rental. So anything that goes wrong from $0 to $1 million, we're going to cover, and we're based in Atlanta, Georgia.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And next up is Alberto from Casai.
Hi there, thank you, Paul. I'm Alberto from Casai. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer. Casai is a short-term rental company based from Mexico City and operating in Sao Paulo as well. We focus on bringing technology, locality, and peerless customer experience to design forward spaces to really bring the best of short-term rentals with the comforts and standards of five-star hotels.
Thank you very much, Alberto. And next up, Whitney from the International Wellbeing Institute.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to join you all in the virtual space. So Whitney Austin Gray, I lead research for the International Wellbeing Institute, and my company is really focused on people first places and the idea that anywhere that has a front door also can have a certification or a seal to demonstrate that they are a healthy building that supports the wellness of the people inside.
Thank you very much, Whitney. And finally, last but not least, Roger.
Thank you, Paul. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining from. Thank you, Paul. My name is Roger Allen. I am the Group CEO of Resources for Leisure Assets. We are a specialized advisory working with resorts, destinations, and what we refer to as the complicated assets, those destinations and assets that have a lot of moving parts that contribute to the success of the real estate. We have an office in California, in Sonoma, Budapest here in Europe, where I am joining from, and also in Dubai in the Middle East.
So we have a truly global panel today, all over the world. So for context to this session, we have Casai raising $48 million in Series A funding. We're going to be talking to Alberto about that a bit later. safely uncovering demands for private rentals and insurance solutions. And I also advise you very much to check out the GWS Wellness Trends and the RLA Wellness Real Estate Report. I think Roger will be talking to us a little bit in detail about that later. But first of all, with this conversation, I really want to get down to the nitty-gritty about how we're going to define wellness, well-being, safety. These are all terms that we're going to be talking about as a thread throughout this session. So, Whitney, I'm going to start with you. What does, it's a little bit of a difficult question for an outsider like myself, but what does wellness and well-being mean to you exactly from IWBI?
Sure. The simplest answer to that is wellness is really associated more with a process. It's something you are pursuing a state of well-being, but you're on the path to. Whereas well-being is a construct we measure within health. So the WHO, the World Health Organization, has put forward that health is the complete state of mental, physical, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. So that's well-being, but it gets a little more complicated than that. So if I said, are you well today? Do you have wellness in your life? Do you want well-being? Am I talking about your physical well-being, your economic well-being? Of course, we also have the psychological well-being that plays a role. I will go as far as to say that the thing that everyone wants right now in the world, and this is something our CEO put forward, and I would really agree, the thing everyone wants more than anything right now is wellness, well-being, and they want to be well. Right? We don't want to just be healthy. We don't want to just avoid disease. We want to live and thrive. And that is part of the definition of well-being, is that we're able to do that in our life, and we don't have an absence of that. So it is a powerful term. I think we also have to be sensitive to the fact that it has a history of maybe not always being connotated with accessibility to all. It may have been connotated more in sort of spa space. So we have to rethink around wellness for all and well-being for all and what that truly means. So it is a complex and powerful term. And I'm so excited to have a chance to really dig into it more with the speakers today.
Thank you. Very well outlined as well. I mean, how do you think, you've explained that very well, sort of in isolation. So how do you think maybe we could apply that to a hospitality perspective, in your opinion?
Well, I think that you really examine these different pillars of what well-being is, and then you ask yourself, are you addressing them or not? And we work with the Well Building Standard, and so that's right now that's free to download online, and you can actually go through the checklist and say, what are we doing for air and water and light? But then also, what are we doing for mental well-being? What are we doing for collaboration and community and healthy eating? And so I think that's a wonderful way to start, to say, like, do we support this? Is it what we do? And does everyone have access to this? And then furthermore, are we communicating in a way that people understand? So when people are seeking out an experience, it's our job, and I think in hospitality, to understand how people interact with space. And wellness as an experience that seeks out well-being is important, but we also need to be able to communicate that to people to help them understand. So you're trying to make the invisible visible to them. So certifications and standards that allow you to clearly communicate, we've done the work for you to create a space that supports your well-being. We have a certification, we have a plaque, we're working with a specific company that you trust. That enables someone to step in the door and have a safe experience, an experience that supports their health, but also truly supports their well-being without having to think about it.
Thank you, Whitney. I'm going to move on to Roger next. So we talked in our pre-call about importance of not just looking at wellness on its own, but from your background, how do you think leisure, recreation, well-being, all of these terms we've just mentioned, how can they all influence a vacation and the experience?
Well, I think if we break these activities that you're referring to into their segments, if we just kind of run a list of, let's say, leisure, recreation, healthcare, wellness, sport, fitness, entertainment. If you look at all of those collectively, they are in most part what actually make up the experience of a vacation. They are, in fact, actually the memories of a vacation. They are the reason why you go on vacation. And so, you know, not to kind of belittle the hotel room or the, you know, vacation room, but, you know, all of these activities are, you know, should be the reason why you're able to, you know, sell the room in many respects if you get it right. The key is how well you're able to, I would say, weave all of these activities together to make a compelling proposition.
And how important do you think it is on that basis to tailor the leisure and well-being proposition to the guest profile as well, make it quite specific?
Well, it's vital today in the current climate as well. And I think if you just look at, three of the stakeholders in the vacation proposition, if you take it from, let's say, the guest, the operator, the developer, and the investor, for example. Yes, there are other stakeholders here, but if you take those three in isolation, you know, working, you know, from the guests are accustomed more than ever to an ever increasing personalized experience. Operators need to know the market profile with which they need to make the property appeal to. They need to know exactly what expectations these guests have. And at the beginning of this food chain, you've really got investors and developers having to get all of these ingredients right from the get-go. So it is absolutely vital that you understand who your audience is and how you're going to personalize that experience right from the investment perspective. You know, it's interesting. We looked at the, over 3,200 hotels in the Wellness Real Estate Report from all over the world. And, there's a mixed set of performance data for, let's say, wellness-driven hotels, depending on how you rationalize the data. And therefore, the well-being proposition is not a copy-paste IRR formula for the hotel sector. So it's more of an approach that requires detailed analysis and understanding of the real estate's proposition and well-being proposition in what is an ever increasingly, more competitive marketplace. So going back to your ultimate question, which is how important, it's absolutely vital.
Well, let's pose that question to Alberto at Casai, because you're a corporate housing company and you're advertising premium accommodations. I believe that's what's listed on your website as well. So how do you go about conveying your message of wellness, of safety, of security to a range of diverse audiences that you're catering to?
Yeah, I think what we've identified is that there are sort of two different things that you need to consider when you're targeting a message like this. One of them are sort of the actual building blocks of what constitutes wellness, safety, well-being to these particular types of guests. But the other one that's equally or more important is the emotional triggers. I think the best way of saying this is through an example. Let's think about the workation type of guest. They want to, travel to maybe more of an exotic country. I mean, to the question that was posted on the chat, I'm speaking from experience in terms of Mexico, so it's not necessarily a wealthy first world country, but they have a lot of requirements that they need to make sure it remains so that they can work comfortably. So what are the building blocks? Security, of course. Mexico City, has a bad reputation, or had a bad reputation in that aspect. They really care about things like quality of air, but there's other things that may not seem like you would consider them part of the well-being and wellness equation. Internet quality is the number one element of well-being and mental health for a working professional. If you do not have good internet, you will be in a constant state of stress. So being able to target the things that really drive people's sort of peace of mind. But then when we started marketing that sort of campaign and we had people, working from beautiful locations on their laptop, the campaign did not gain traction. What did gain traction? people on their terraces drinking coffee. Because people aren't actually traveling to Mexico City to have good internet. They need to have good internet, but they want to travel to Mexico City because they want to disconnect and relax. So you need to have both the emotional and the practical in order to target this message.
And I believe you've partnered with online wellness seminars, self-improvement exercise. What's been the overall goal of this?
Basically what we want to do is to bring community and locality into the apartment building. So I think Whitney mentioned that community is a crucial aspect of well-being and wellness, and I think it is a challenge because before we used to organize guest meets and have everybody meet everyone, and like all these kinds of things you lose with the pandemic. So we've been focusing a lot, and everything from What a Woman, which is like women empowerment forum that we're working with, to smaller things. We have like the complimentary bikes, we have complimentary wellness kits where we let people have a yoga mat, and then we have weekly classes for free for all of our community. So all these things are about bringing Mexico City and bringing the community of Casai into your apartment without exposing your health. And I think a lot of these, collaborating with seminars, collaborating with all kinds of things that are about bettering yourself and having this community is an important way of keeping people safe from COVID as well, and away from other more risky activities.
Thank you, Alberto. So Andrew, at Safely, I mean, how do you provide this peace of mind for hosts, for owners, for guests, with the offering you provide?
Yeah, exactly, Paul. So sometimes the guests can get a little too comfortable and a little too relaxed, and that's where we step in, because when that guest is relaxed, the homeowner and the property manager is likely a little bit less relaxed, no matter what, especially if they're new in the industry. This is their biggest concern. So great that the guest is relaxed. We're really, really focused on how do we help that homeowner feel relaxed, or the property manager, as they're the ones who have to clean up at the end. And so our whole mission is to help those homeowners feel more comfortable. So we do look at the guests as they come in. We see how they book. We look at the type of home they're staying in, their booking trends, advanced purchase window, what booking channel they used. We look at how close that home is to their primary home, and then we're able to identify those high-risk reservations, because we've been able to see the outcome of every reservation. Since we're insuring every reservation, we've insured over $40 billion of homeowner and property manager liability so far. We see the outcome of everything. So we're able to help the homeowners put a little bit more scrutiny on those high-risk guests, so that they know that, all right, 87% of the guests are just fine. We don't have to worry about a thing. Automatic locks, like they can just come and go as they want. We don't have to bother them. But where we really help those homeowners feel comfortable is, first, we pay for anything if it goes wrong, or our underwriters do, but we also help them identify those high-risk guests so they can just spend their attention there and pay extra attention when it is going to be a higher risk rental, because we think that like solves the whole puzzle. If the guest is relaxed and the homeowner is relaxed, well, now this is a great industry that's going to grow really, really well.
You talk about high-risk guests, high-risk reservations, and I suppose that you determine this for your guest screening, but what are the alarming risk signals for you in anticipation for something?
Yeah, I mean, some of them are very clear. These because you're a property manager, you've had 20, 40, 400 guests. I mean, younger people do sillier things. But really, it's people booking at the last minute. And this too, but it's the last minute booking, people where they're staying somewhere that's close to their primary house. So here it is, it's Tuesday, and we all want to go have some fun. So we're probably going to get our friends together tonight. We're going to book something. It's going to be a 2-day stay. It's going to be about 2-3 hours away from our primary house. It's going to be a short stay, because if you destroy a house, you don't want to live in it for like day 3 and day 4. Like you want to get out of there. If you're there for 10 days, then you have to live in your filth. So you're probably going to take better care of the house. So we're really, really attuned to short stays, short booking windows. You know, we do like what some of the booking channels are doing. You know, Airbnb, you know, hit and miss, but still they're trying to do some things. VRBO has a really good group of guests coming through. But those are some of the tells. But then also we're starting to see guests over and over, and you know, a couple of them, they've been through your homes. They go from one property manager, then they go to another property manager, and they just pick you off one by one. And we have a bad guest list, and so we want to at least keep them, you know, from doing the same thing over and over.
Just a reminder to everyone who's watching today, please remember that you can post any questions in the chat, and our sponsors, Nuki, thank you very much for your support. Those contact details are also in the chat. We'll have time for a short Q&A at the end. So moving on to the second question, and Roger, I wanted to come to you on this. I think you're the ideal man for this. So when it comes to vacation rentals capturing guest desire for wellness, and how would you say the pandemic and the staycation model that we're seeing a lot of success with at the moment, how are these encouraging vacation rentals to look more at the experiences of guests, be a bit more granular?
I think we have to look at how the pandemic is influencing society, because I think that's where the biggest, you know, influence is being made. You know, I think people seem to feel an even greater need for a vacation, even though they're not traveling, even though they are under lockdown. So, so number one. Number two, I think private rentals seem to give vacationers more options, maybe even more independence, providing them kind of with a kind of a freedom to isolate almost within their own bubble. It's a home away from home, which I think aids you know, the popularity in the staycation model and the rental model. And then at the same time, what you've got is a period of time where society actually does have time to browse, to make, you know, I would say, decisions based upon evaluation, and not necessarily it being a last minute decision. So I think, you know, these have a major influence in the popularity of the staycation model right now. And by sheer fact that, you know, we are under lockdown, there is homeschooling, people can actually, you know, be in one location for a prolonged period, also aids the staycation model. So it's perfect timing for staycation. I just came back from, you know, a number of weeks in Dubai, and the popularity there, people just, you know, working from, you know, one particular apartment with the family, with some sun on them, knowing full well that they've, you know, entered the country, having passed the COVID tests, knowing full well that people entering have to go through the same, you know, precautions, you know, creates that bubble almost, if you wish. And so, you know, all of these ingredients, I think, further the staycation model.
Is there a sort of a situation perhaps where some brands are overcomplicating their offerings, and perhaps is it that they need to be more defined or clearly resort oriented? Is that something you would say?
Well, I think we go back to an old discussion that, you know, we always kick about at hospitality events. You know, don't we have too many brands? You know, and, you know, what is the problem created out of this? And I think, you know, we know that brand proliferation, you know, has made it even harder for ways that they can actually be memorable. You know, how they connect with the guest. You know, I think you've got too many resorts and destinations trying also to be everything to everyone, which then also makes it difficult to personalize the experience. So, you know, too many brands within this, you know, sector do make it difficult, do make it complicated for the consumer to decide. It's funny, if you compare it to, let's say, technology and mobile hand devices, you've got two out there. You're either Apple or you're Android, and then you've got some other lesser so brands. But it's pretty straightforward. The proposition. It's quite distinguished. But when you bring this to the hospitality sector, you've got this proliferation that makes it very, very difficult for the consumer to decide which one has the meaningful value to them. And I think it also makes it difficult for the brands to also ensure that they're not diluting and competing with sister brands, for example.
I'd love to get Alberto's perspective on that, because Casai, I believe you were founded on essentially on these three pillars: the high-end design, the concierge experiences, the locality, things we've previously touched on. But how do you get all of these how do all of these things fit within that value proposition, like Roger touched on, and ensure you're still getting that ROI?
I think we've, in some ways, the pandemic situation that we're going through has sort of sharpened our value proposition around our pillars. High-end design and beautiful spaces have become more important than ever now that people have to be locked up in their houses, the majority, if not all, their day. I think, the percentage of guests that are willing to slum it and go to like 2-star hotels, or even stay in a beautiful, 20 square meter box, have reduced. And I think that's what really pushed our high-end design value. In terms of the concierge experiences, I would also like to talk about the technology aspect of it, which is, the promise has always been to have 24/7 service that's completely self-check-in and self-serve. Right now, guests are very excited about the idea of not having to go to a concierge desk, pick up a key, and just like exchange, space with so many people that they don't know. And finally, in terms of locality, I think this has been the biggest challenge, because we have to bring, as I said before, all of Mexico City or Sao Paulo into your apartment. But I think here we have worked with the other pillars. The high-end design is not only high-end, it's local as well. 70% of all of our furniture, amenities, everything that in the apartment, 70% or more is locally sourced in the city where you are in. And the technology allows us to bring in experiences from Mexico City to your apartment. One exciting one that we're having for Valentine's Day is we're partnering with some of the top restaurants in Mexico City to have like beautiful high like luxury takeout where people will come in and give you like an amazing experience, including like a wine tasting and everything for the most romantic dinner right inside of your apartment. So I think having everything focused inward as you stay has allowed us to make people who already love Casai fall in love.
Thank you very much, Alberto. You come to Whitney next, because I want to sort of put a few statistics to you that we got from Airbnb this week. And they said that their wellness trends, that people are looking for more connected and relaxed travel, with 24% feeling loneliness or emptiness, 44% saying that they wanted to feel relaxed from their trips, 34% comfortable, 33% safe. So when it comes to wellness tourism, this is something we mentioned in our pre-call as well. Would you agree that people are not just looking for that stay, but also for an experience, and are private homes the sort of segment that can capture that?
Yeah, so I think that the disadvantages of private homes and short-term rentals of 5 years ago are quickly turning into the advantages. I think people are slowing down. I think people want to feel connected. So the host cares about me. You didn't just say you did it. I actually know you. I read the reviews. I know your first name, because I'm trusting my life with you now. I'm not just staying overnight. If something happened in this space and you're not truthful about this, and someone was symptomatic, right, and you don't have the right ventilation or cleaning procedures, I'm potentially now putting my family at risk. So I now need to trust you in the virtual space, and I want to know your first name. I want to know that you've not just told me you use Lysol. I want you to be certified. I want you to have worked with a company that I trust, you know, that has done the safety protocols. And I think that trust is an interesting word right now. People feel overwhelmed. So I'm a new mama, and I have an 8-month-old that's upstairs on snow day. And I took a short-term rental this weekend. And not only do I need to figure out go, and is it safe to go there? I need to figure out about 15 additional levels of that, because I am dealing with having to protect my child in the process of just trying to get away. So I am a researcher, I'm a PhD, I love data, I want to spend all my time in it. And do I really want to spend my weekend doing all the research on fomite transmission and air quality ventilation standards? No, I don't. I want to get away. And if I'm saying that, then what are people that have no interest in looking at ventilation standards thinking? So if you're overwhelmed, what do? You look for someone you trust, that you can say, you've done the work for me. Your brand represents that I can trust that you've done what you said you're going to do, and that every time I come to you, you've done your homework. And so the world called, let me just get away for a crazy party, I think is really thoughtfully being replaced with this need for connection, this need for trust and an overwhelm, and where the bed was luxurious before is being replaced with, is the ventilation system good? And I'm going to add here as a research scientist is that we understand now that fomite transmission is very, very low. We've always known this pathogen was very easy to kill. It has a lipid layer to it. However, we still put forward these cleaning protocols, which are not actually often safe because some of the occupants don't realize you're now breathing in potentially toxic cleaner. This is the kind of information that I think as professionals, we need to provide to our short-term rental, leaders out there, the boutique hotels, the overnight stays, so they can clearly communicate that to the people that are staying there to create not just an overnight stay, but an experience that is stress-free, that, supports them getting away because I've done the homework for you. And also, who I am. I'm not just a company, I'm a name that you can trust. And so I do foresee that we're going to fundamentally shift tourism moving forward, and that consumer is going to want more than just a night stay. They're going to want an experience of wellness.
Well, one company that is trying to provide peace of mind in the short-term rental industry is Andrew. So Andrew, I wanted to ask, why do you think, how can hosts be using safely to eliminate booking risks, but at the same time, obviously the goal isn't to eliminate reservations. So how do you balance those two things?
Yeah, I think it's two things. Remember, a property manager has two constituents. One are the homeowners who actually own the house, and then second is that guest who's coming in. And it really is, as I said before, putting your effort on those high-risk guests, but it could be in some really, really fun ways that add the wellness. So how about you bring cookies? Those high-risk guests, those 5%, you bring them cookies every night, or somehow that air filter needs to be replaced like every other day. And so at least they know that you're nearby. There's extra friction, and it's more about creating extra friction for the right people than it is about eliminating, because we all care about occupancy. We all care about average daily rate, and especially in high season, like you're not giving away that week. You got to go get it. Like, you might be more flexible in the off season or the shoulder season, but high season, you got to harvest. And so you don't want to send those high risk guests away, but it really is putting the right effort where it belongs. And then secondarily, helping your homeowners feel comfortable, because that's creating so much more stress for you too. And there's been some research where there's almost 30 million second homes that are only being used 4 to 6 weeks of the year in Europe, UK, and the US. And they're just waiting there. But the main barrier for those homes even joining our market and making our industry, our market bigger and more diverse is just, well, I have to let an internet stranger come and sleep in my beds. And especially in a time of diseases, like that's really weird. And so I think that's just another opportunity of how do we get those homeowners really excited about this like fantastic opportunity to monetize an asset that's not being not being used, but in a way that they're comfortable with. So we really focus on both of those pieces.
Have
Like
you?
wellness cookies, right, Andrew? Like healthy.
Wellness, we're going to call that. I love it. Wellness cookies. These are so I can stay well. I'm giving you cookies so you know that it's bedtime soon. Noise gets quiet pretty soon, 10 o'clock. I love it.
Well, that takes me very nicely there into Whitney, because you've already touched on the importance of certification and your WELL certification. I'd like to hear a bit more about that, and I'm sure our audience would. So how does your WELL certification make wellness in hospitality experiences more visible, and why is this important?
Sure. So we're the first building certification system in the world focused on human health and well-being. We are so excited to have some boutique hotels and short-term stays, such as the Inn Moonlight Beach, which is in California. That is a WELL Platinum space. The Aimbridge Hospitality portfolio has actually enrolled in the WELL Health Safety Rating. And the Good Nature Hotel Kyoto is WELL certified gold. And they're all examples of saying we're going to go above and beyond to demonstrate to our guest that we follow the protocols around air quality, extremely important right now, always important, but very important right now. We look at thermal comfort, humidity levels, mold, for example, involved in the standard. We'll look at light issues. We can talk a lot about that experience around light and sleep and well-being. But I also mentioned earlier that we go beyond typical indoor environmental quality to also looking at what access to food do you have, what access to nature, this world of biophilia and biophilic design. We're hearing a lot more about how that's directly linked to stress response, dwell times, the types of nature, fractal patterns. It gets really exciting, I think, very quickly on that. I'm happy to share some research just on biophilia. But again, we also talk about community. So how do you create interactions? This may not come as a newsflash to anyone, but humans actually never evolved in isolation very well. And so we've been really Homo sapiens in modern sort of cities in the last 5,000 years, if you think about that. And we've not done well in isolation now. So how do you create spaces that engage people to have those sort of casual connections? So with the WELL Building Standard, we have 10 different concept areas that touch all of those features. And you can download it today on wellcertified.com. It's a free resource, so I really do encourage you to check that out. You can do a quick snapshot checklist of, am I doing it, am I not? In order to receive certification, we do come on site and do performance testing. I think as many people can appreciate in this call, I don't want to hear that you think you've done something for my health. I want a professional in there testing and tracking air quality performance. I want someone testing and tracking issues around filtration, particulate matter. So that is going to be part of our certification standard, is performance testing. During COVID, we really had to respond quickly. And so we stood up the health and safety rating, which is part of our campaign to sort of look for the seal. And that is 25 of the features of WELL that companies basically will certify under. It's a different sort of price point entry in which it enables companies to say, we have these policies underway that protect our building. This is really important to us because you can't see the invisible when you walk in a building. If your owner has just spent thousands of dollars to create a very safe and healthy place that supports your wellness, you don't always see it. Do you see bad air quality? Can you see the pathogen, right? Tens of thousands that live on the diameter of a human hair. You can't see it. So where, as a short-term rental owner, are you basically getting the credit that you've done something and gone above and beyond? And so the WELL Health Safety Rating is really important to convey that through the seal in the front door. That's your shortcut. That's your trust symbol. That's your, okay, I know you've done this. And frankly, you've gone above and beyond. I don't need to do more homework on you. I know you've done it through a third party. And so both of those pathways have been, I think, really powerful for our clients to say, we're doing the right work. We're going above and beyond. Frankly, a lot of our clients are having to do different cleaning and ventilation strategies now, and they want to be awarded for those efforts, and they want to clearly be able to communicate to their customers we're going above and beyond. And I'm just receiving a question here that the well building standard, about us being global, we are international in scope, and we work very closely with green building rating systems as well, if people are interested. So we have close partnerships with BREEAM directly in the UK, but happy to speak about that. I'll just close out on that comment and saying that humans are 99.8% genetically similar. Places are very different, and wellness is very personalized. And so we really work with our clients to tell us what experience do they want to create of wellness around the world. And we say, what does the human body need? And they tell us how they're going to get that done to create a truly powerful experience for our clients that is about health and safety and wellness.
Thank you, Whitney. And I'm sure you can connect with Ali to talk about that after this session as well. Roger, resources for leisure assets, you've also been very keen to point out your well-being hospitality approach. So how are you using this to analyze the links between the activities and assets that you've mentioned, and also the ADR performance, occupancy, all of these vital things?
Well, well-being hospitality was an approach founded by RLA that really looked at evaluating how leisure, recreation, healthcare, wellness, sport, fitness, entertainment influence the performance of the real estate. So it was really, owner investor driven to identify what the IRR really looked like. It's okay to talk about wellness, and it is a general feel good, around the whole wellness, well-being activity and initiative. However, investors are, have a keen eye on a return. And so it was about really understanding how that investment could deliver a return. So we created a methodical approach to understanding if and how all of those activities outside of the bedroom influenced the performance of traditional measuring metrics such as ADR and RevPAR. So it's quite a complex model to really look at a very simple question, because we know the growth of the industry, we know the feel-good factor, we know all of that, but that doesn't necessarily work well when you're standing in front of a bank, a financial institution looking to raise capital, because at the end of the day, it's the IRR. And so what we wanted to look at is how that IRR is derived, but also we wanted to look at the use of the real estate and the activities placed upon them, rather than just taking for granted that just because it is a wellness-driven activity, that it can be assumed that a return will be driven. And so we've had tremendous success with this approach with investors to really justify and understand how well-being activities would influence their specific performance of the real estate.
And one thing we've noted in this webinar is how technology is also closely intertwined with wellness and well-being. So Alberto, Casai is named after Casa Inteligente, I believe. I hope I've got that right. And you talk about owning your own, having 100% control of your integrated proprietary technology, talk about 100% communication sensors. So why are you particularly focused on these areas of tech, and how are these going to add an extra dimension of wellness, well-being to that experience?
Yes, definitely. Technology is one of our core value props. Why are we deciding to create this stuff, to develop it from in-house? Well, as we started launching more and more units, we were using off-the-shelf technology, off-the-shelf solutions. And what we realized is that it quickly became sort of a patchwork of different systems that don't necessarily work perfectly together. And again, speaking of this sense of security and of safety and of peace of mind, reliability is one of the core aspects of that. So what we want is for every single guest that checks into any property in Casai to have exactly the same experience, to have exactly the same level of reliability, and to be using exactly the same systems in the same way. And this has also allowed us to integrate a lot of this technology into our ongoing guest experience. Our guests can, do everything from open the door with their own phone, check with their own app, check in for everything from a WhatsApp message to the website or any other platforms. And this full integration is meant to bring in the first part of the value proposition, which is the casa aspect of it. When you're going home, you don't think about grabbing your keys and opening the door. You just do it. And we want to have people feel like they're at home in a way. And then you talked about communication sensors and all that stuff. What we are seeing a lot that it will help us sort of use technology to push hospitality to the next level is to be able to identify issues, hopefully before the guest even identifies it themselves, and have a seamless experience. So I think one thing that we're trying right now, every hospitality wants to have like very good customer service, but ideally, you will eliminate the need to even have to talk to a customer service representative over a problem. So one thing that we're trying out right now, which is very exciting, is through our we have an integrated smart hub system called Butler. And basically, we're able to identify when your connection is having issues and start working on it and address it before you even complain. So ideally, it doesn't happen, if you start having spotty internet, that happens before you have a conference. We fix it, you don't even realize that happened. Another use that I think Andrew is going to appreciate a lot is that we have sort of noise sensors in the common areas. And so we can identify when guests are starting to get rowdy or excited before other guests identify that and start complaining. And we can start addressing the fact that you're breaking the rules and start talking about that. And finally, something that Whitney will appreciate is that we have integrated air quality sensors, where we not only have our typical smoke and CO2 alarms, we also identify if there is an increase in other kind of particulates, or even if it's a small increase in CO2 from maybe the guests being indoors and not opening windows. All of that is being identified, and we are finding solutions to help guests improve their wellness throughout this technology.
Thank you, Alberto. I'm going to come to Andrew very shortly, but I know, Whitney, you wanted to jump in on the ROI of wellness. So what was it you wanted?
I think it's a critical question for this conversation. What is the ROI of wellness? And what I want to put forward is that we need to erase the concept that wellness is an amenity or an add-on. And if the pandemic has not shown that, then you've not. The other side of wellness is risk. And so another side of health is risk. So if you're not health promoting, if you're not wellness promoting, then there are some risk aspects that you need to take into account, such as there is no regulation currently in the US and many parts of the world on indoor air quality, particularly for homes. So most people don't realize that their ventilation system is not being changed enough. The airflows and the changes per hour are not going to be adequate for a large amount of people in that space. And so what you thought maybe 5 years ago was a wellness amenity to increase air filtration. If you're not doing that, then you're potentially having a super spreader event in your home because you have such low ventilation filtration strategies. So I would really advise that as we look at the data on this, and I'm happy to walk through on multiple pillars around that, wellness is not optional. It is going to be looked at more as a requirement. And if you chose openly not to think about ventilation filtration, if you chose openly not to pursue cleaning practices. I love Alberto's examples around making sure you have air quality monitors, right? And looking at Andrew's examples of how you're clearly conveying the safety in the space. If you're not doing that, then you're behind. And you at least need to be aware that these strategies exist and have a reason why you chose not to do those. Because when an event occurs, and more so now we're looking at the health event that shuts down everything in its space, and we saw it happen, you need to be ready. And I hate to be the public health person at times, but I do need to say we knew this pandemic was coming. We did not know the name. We did not know the date, but we knew how far reaching it could be. And zoonotic diseases are still on the rise. This is not something that you want to say, I got through this one. I don't have to worry again. This is an opportunity to say, let's be resilient in the future. And I want to remind people that resiliency is not avoidance. resiliency is being better prepared in the future for these situations. And it's been really exciting to hear from the panelists around how these strategies are not in response or reactive, but also proactive to creating better experiences long-term, hopefully way beyond COVID-19. And I hope not see any other COVIDs in the future.
Thank you, Whitney. And if that's one of the major challenges our industry is facing, Andrew, you said that one of the biggest sort of issues is professionalization of the industry, but also the biggest opportunity for the vacation rental segment. So how do you think homes can become, if it is possible for them to become substitutes for hotels, other hospitality segments?
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly as Whitney was saying, and a lot of what Alberto is working on is, I mean, if you look at the corporate travel segment, employers have a duty of care to take care of their employees when they travel. And so if you're putting your employee into a house that's not safe, if there's a weirdo host there or the locks aren't strong, well, who are you going to sue? Like, there's no recourse against an individual host. Now, Alberto just raised a big round, so there's some recourse there. But instead, what companies need is they need that to feel comfortable that this duty of care is met, that they're sending their employees will be safe when they're traveling for work. Like, everything has some risk, but they've met the same standards as if that employee was going to go to a Marriott hotel. Large corporations send teams over to make sure that the hotel is in the right neighborhood with the right safety rating around it, has the right fire system, alarm systems. Everything is has been certified, and then there's none of that for our industry yet. So I think once we can really attract the Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies and prove to them that there is a level of professionalness, that there's at least a subset of private accommodation that's going to work for corporate travelers, so the company's not feeling like they're risking themselves too much, I think that's when we'll have gotten to the next level as an entire industry.
And I guess as the industry professionalizes, the guests themselves are going to become more demanding, more informed, as there is more competition within the marketplace. So, Roger, I'll come to you, because what do you think from outside of the short-term rental industry to some extent? How do you think vacation rentals can learn from hotels, resorts, mixed-use developments, that's what you work with, about providing clearly defined concepts, experiences like we're talking about?
You know what, if you don't mind, I would approach it different to the question. I think that's the industry, the sector has been very much stuck in its ways for many years because we've looked at existing models. So I would just turn it on its head. And rather than trying to learn from existing models, I think the best way forward to the rental model, investors to this particular model, is by applying, first principles thinking. Obviously an approach made, more famous by Elon Musk, which basically questions every assumption about a given scenario. I think by rentals doing that, they can look, they can rip the rule book up, and that's something they must do. If we just talk about just a few examples, rentals must respond faster to the market trends than traditional hotel models. And they have the ability to do that. They need to be more flexible, need to be nimbler, which they can be, to customize the experience, and finding, I think, that perfect balance between technology aided without losing sight of the human connection. And you've got to find what their target consumer is really interested in. And I'll give you, for example, I know Alberto talked about Wi-Fi early on. In that, Wi-Fi may be very important for a certain segment. It may not be. It may be, not at the priority for another segment. Depends on the proposition, where that proposition is located, and who you're appealing to. So you've got to find out, what those, how do you personalize the experience, and what is important to the segment that you're looking to attract. And not to say that Wi-Fi isn't important. I'm just saying, you know, it's not a cookie cutter approach. You need to find, you know, what exactly is the differentiator for your particular property. And that's by identifying the profile of the audience. So I would rip the rule book up. Don't look at, you know, traditional hotel model. You know, if you think about, you know, how industries have been disrupted, they've been disrupted by, you know, out of the box thinking, you know, players coming into the marketplace that wasn't, you know, an existing player. And the way that they did, you know, rip the rule book up was by, you know, I would think first principles thinking.
Well, thank you very much to all of our contributors. I think that we can all agree that was a very interesting discussion. We had lots more questions that I just haven't had time to answer, but I'm sure I'll advise everyone who has been registered for this webinar to contact our speakers and approach them directly if you've got anything that I wasn't able to mention today. So thank you again to Andrew, to Alberto, to Whitney and to Roger. And that's very special to show you. So I'd like to unveil our Shorties promo video for our event in April, and the links to the Shorties website and award force entries platforms are going to be posted in the chat for you now. So here you go. Quite simply, the Shorties is your opportunity to be recognised as a leader in this exciting short-term rental market space. So following a fantastic launch of the inaugural Shorties Award, we've made the decision to increase the number of award categories from 13 to 18. So yes, I very much encourage you all to get entering. If you're in the short-term rental industry, we've got 18 categories and we're really looking forward to our virtual award ceremony, as it says, on the 22nd of April 2021. So I would also advise you to check out my colleague George's Urban Living webinar series running concurrently to this. The next session is on the 10th of February on the future of youth travel, and the link is in the chat. Very useful conversation there. And for sponsorship opportunities for either the webinars, the RockSTRz webinars, or Shorties Awards, please do get in touch with my colleague Katie, and the details, her details are on the screen for you now. And a big shout out to our series sponsor Nuki. Their details again are in the chat. Thank you very much for your support, Nuki. And please do, of course, contact us via our various channels and subscribe to our newsletters, now with weekly video news roundups, so you can see even more of me. That may or may not be a good thing, but yes, we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time for our session on the convergence between short-term rentals, service departments and boutique hotels in 2021. That's sponsored by Guesty, so I thoroughly encourage you to sign up for that as well. And all that's left to say is thank you again for listening to all of our speakers, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.